level of service B in the design year, which is very good. The average delay through the roundabout was about 13 seconds. The signalized T intersection was also a level of service B, but it had about 18 seconds of overall average delay. So this actually had the best performance of anything we looked at. We also thought that there was some safety benefits of the roundabout, some traffic calming, and to be honest, I thought it gave a really nice option as kind of a gateway feature into Lewiston. You can do a lot with roundabouts in that center island, and we've got some nice things that's designed into the plans to kind of make it a little bit of a gateway or an entrance to town. And plus, they do a lot. They do a very nice job of calming traffic too. So, and they handle a lot of traffic. One of the nice things about roundabouts is nobody ever stops like you do at a signal. I mean, you kind of slow down and they're all merges and yields.
Other than street lights, is there any? There's no signals. Nothing.
Yeah,
correct.
That's another benefit to the roundabout. There is no there's no maintenance, long-term maintenance like you have with a signal. You know, power goes out, the roundabout still works fine.
Pro Tem Cannon, you had a question.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say now.
That'll make you dizzy. You can't sit there and stare at that.
Both of you were on the original Citizens Committee, right?
Mm-hmm.
You, Mr. Mayor and Pro Tem, yeah, the advisory.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, in hearing the discussion here tonight about an issue that really, in my eye, we shouldn't be talking about. This should be a done deal. We talk about $161,000, Councilor Stevenson, that's budgeted for next year. And if we do away with that, I have yet anybody to tell me how we're going to pay for $942,000 back. We just paid $1.2 million of stormwater fee back. How are we going to pay back the $924,000 or whatever that dollar figure is? Don't care what the Tribune writes. I read the Tribune, and all consideration to my friend Brad Gary, he does a good job. When I want to get my facts, I'll go to the people who have the facts. If I decide that I'm going to be for or against something, I will go to Mr. Bennett, or I'll go to Mr. Davies, or I'll go to whoever will have the facts and give me the facts. If I read the paper, it's not going to change my mind. I have the facts from the people who have the facts. So us as counselors have to be very cognizant of that and do our due diligence to make sure that we get the facts before anything comes up on these agendas. That's just, I think, how a city councilor should operate. When you start looking at a project that's been in the works for that length of time, and the diligence that's been done on that, and the amount of money spent on that project, and the people who want that project, it's time to move forward with the project. We talk about a deficit in our budget. Yeah, we got one. Our city manager's taking care of that. Balanced budget. Didn't I hear that today? Pretty sweet to have a balanced budget in this city. We've worked hard for that. We've made a lot of cuts to do that. But this is one area that we're not going to cut. I'm sorry, we're just not going to do it. We're going to follow through with this project. It's there, the money's there, but I have yet any of you guys to tell me how we're going to pay back $924,000. You're saying it could go back 5 years, could go back 10 years. They may take the whole money and go somewhere else with it. Isn't that what you just said, sir? Pretty close?
Yes, Councilman. You know, if we have to use this money this year, one way or another. If we don't, it leaves the locals, or it leaves ITD, or it leaves the state if we don't use it in this fiscal year.
So we have to use it. If we don't use it, the money's going to go somewhere else. You're going to pay back $924,000. Why are we having this conversation? I don't understand it. I don't really understand. I'd have more people in my office complaining about that than I would be the project. How we're going to pay that money back.
Mr. Flats, do we have a time frame also? The end of the fiscal year for the state is June 29th?
Well, the end of the fiscal year is September, the end of September.
Okay.
The new fiscal year starts in October. But ITD gives us a deadline of the end of July to have everything in, because then they have a month or two to recover or find something else that fits in if this falls out.
Okay.
So we have to know in July.
Counselor Rand,
Oh, I'm sorry.
did you have any questions? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Dan.
I'll defer to.
Counsel Pro Tem Cannon.
Thanks. We had the reading of this at our last meeting, correct? Do we read it again? Or is this just to make a motion to approve the agreement?
No,
Do we
I
have to
would
read it
recommend that you
again?
read it again because it's back on your agenda as an
So we
item.
have to read it again
I would recommend that
and
you
then
do that.
approve
Yeah,
the
The
resolution?
resolution itself, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, to move this along, I would entertain motion to read Resolution 2012-27.
I think on the table right now is a motion to reconsider.
No, you've already.
No, we already
We can
did
just
that.
do that? All righty.
We already did that.
So we can, motion on the floor is to read Resolution 2012-27.
Second.
Counselor Daniel?
I just have a comment. I wasn't, I'm actually prepared to read and approve this based on the new facts that have been presented. I wasn't going to do this, but since Counselor Cannon kind of opened the door, the fact is that $924,000, even the idea that we might have to pay it back, didn't come up last time until after the vote by Mayor Poole. So you can sit here and act like you knew the whole time, but I think it's far, if you knew that we had to possibly pay back any funds and you didn't bring it up last time in the debate, that's far worse than me not knowing it. I truly believe that this was new information that we all learned. You voted for the project because you're actually for the project. You weren't doing it because we may have to pay back the funds. And when before council meetings, we get a packet filled with information on each agenda item. Each agenda item has the financial implications for that agenda item. In this case, that agenda item did not have, the only financial implication it had was the cost of doing it, not a huge sum cost of not doing it. I understand that that's a miscommunication. In the future, I'll ask for more information when it relates to grants and, what will happen if we don't approve it. But those are new facts that just came out. The fact that Jerry came up here proves that this was new information that came out after the vote.
Mr. Mayor?
Pro Tem
In
Cannon.
response to that, Councilor Gannon, and I appreciate your comments, and you're new on the city council. Anytime you're dealing with grants and anytime you're dealing with preliminary design of anything, if that project does not follow through, you will pay back the cost of that. This is nothing new that we've talked about in work sessions or anything else as far as this roundabout's concerned. And that's always been brought up, maybe I took it upon myself, that is something that we all know. Now, again, you're new, so maybe you didn't know that. I knew that. I didn't think I'd have to bring it up. Because I know that if we're not following through with the project, we're paying back money, big money. So I guess my apologies for not telling you that. But again, if you're going to vote against the negative on an issue that's this far down, ask the questions of your department managers and your city manager might be able to give you the answers to that. But I already knew that. And I think most of the people on here knew it. I don't know. Am I wrong? I think most of us did. But it's just a given. Anytime you're getting grant funding from anything, if you don't follow through, it's going back. The money you put into it's going back.
Any further discussion on the issue? Read Resolution 2012-27.
One further item.
Counselor
Well,
Stevens.
I object to the idea that there's only one option, and that is to cancel it and give the money, and then possibly have to pay money back. There are other options, whether or not people want to take the time, and I realize we don't have a lot of time, but we just learned that we do have a little bit of time to talk about other options. But it's not a given that the only option is to cancel it. There are other possibilities.
Any other discussion by council? Hearing none, those in favor of reading Resolution 2012-27, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
I wish to abstain from both the reading and the voting.
Is it for a conflict of interest? Or?
I am concerned about a conflict of interest on the part of the city council, and I'm also concerned about having data and having to make a decision on the fly. And so I wish to abstain.
Okay. So those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0 with Councilor Stevenson abstaining. I'll entertain a motion or we need to read?
Approving Resolution 2012-27 by title only. A resolution approving a state-local agreement for intersection improvements at Snake River Avenue and Southway Avenue in Lewiston between the City of Lewiston and Idaho Transportation Department, authorizing and directing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest respectively said agreement and providing an effective date.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2012-27 as read.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2012-27.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2012-27. Is there any discussion? Councilor Kleber.
Just one. This is, I'm sorry I wasn't at the last meeting, and when I finally woke up on the couch, I only caught the parliamentarian swabble towards the end of the meeting, so I was not aware until I read the paper the next day. But we were elected to be counselors and to be policymakers, and we've talked about that, Councilor Stevenson. I wasn't elected to be a construction project manager, and to go this far in the stage of where we're at 10 years down the road, to me, just it seems like it's taken a lot of energy to get to this point. Thank you.
Any discussion? Councilor Dan.
I did want to make one more comment before voting on this. Councilor Orman made a comment about, he wants to stay in line to the federal government, and I agree, we should try to recoup some of our tax dollars, but we also need to recognize that the federal government is running out of money. They're broke. They're running off of fictitious credit. So we can't base all our plans, all our future projects off of the federal government giving us funds for it. We got to start planning as if they're not going to be there. When those funds are there, great. It's extra money, but that shouldn't be part of our plan that we're going to completely rely on the federal government to help us out.
Councilor Stevenson.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to ask one more question of the guests, and that is, in the agreement, it talks about should the parties, like the federal government grants or state allocations, that type of thing, should those be trimmed or cut or whatever, that this agreement then is what, nullified?
Yes, Councilwoman. I haven't seen that happen, but I'm not saying it couldn't, but I'm pretty sure that it couldn't for 2012. I don't know if this project moves back to 18. I just don't know. We've been, part of the problem that this has been delayed so long is we've been operating on that safety lieu transportation bill, and it expired over 2 years ago.
Right.
And in fact, that's why this project got to move up a little bit, because we had more money later on when there weren't any high priority projects taking money from the program. So there's not a new Transportation Act. Usually that comes and it lasts for 5 years, and it hasn't been approved. So I don't know what will happen in the future.
But let's say for some reason, because we're running under continuing resolutions as
Yes.
far as transportation money, because I fly for the Homeland Security, so I know that. And that if we don't begin construction in 2013, when it's scheduled to begin, there's still a possibility that something might be, in other words, we're not on the hook, is what I'm trying to, for this, we don't have to pay, the amount if the funds from the federal government are not forthcoming.
I just really don't know what would
Hard to
happen
know.
because it's never happened, but
Okay.
I don't think they would hold you to that if
Yeah.
they weren't keeping up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Part of the transportation planning process is that the last thing you ever consider is where the money can come from. You identify projects based on need and what's important in your community, and whether it's safety or capacity or what development, whatever it is. And once it's on your plan, your capital improvement plan, and it comes up in priority to where you have consensus that it is something that the community wants to move forward to, then is where your source of funding, how you're going to pay for it, comes from. And all these projects that are on our STIP, none of them, to be honest with you, when they're thought and they're put on there, they're saying that they're federal funding, not until after they've been identified and prioritized, scrutinized, and justified that they need to be on our transportation plan. It's not just something that somebody's just thought would be a good idea and it just gets put on a list. It's a very contemplative and process and deliberate process. All through this, again, through this federal process, there's been two public open houses, a public hearing, had an advisory committee that had 4 citizen advisory committee meetings to review the process. So the public has been very involved in this process from day one. So I think that it's one of those things that's one of the great things about the federal process is that it does involve the public to make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time for the community.
Mr. Mayor, just before they vote, just to follow up on an earlier comment about saving for paying for these things, I think that it would be good for everyone to know that Lewiston has always been pretty responsible in the process of saving to pay for projects. Those of us who sit on the MPO, and we have our director here this evening, Matt Jensen, that's a planning process, but in this planning process, we took it very seriously, starting with the last city manager and continuing now. We have set aside, as an example of our planning, we've set aside our portion of what we will have to pay at some future date for the paving of Southway Bridge, as an example. The entities there are projecting that to be something like $1.2 million, and we've already put our portion of that aside so that we know that we have it in reserve. Because part of being ready is being ready to do a job when the funds do become available, and I think Councilor Daniel is correct. We know that things are a little tough right now, and they might not all be available tomorrow afternoon. But we've been very responsible in tagging that in our long-term planning, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful to the fact that we were an initiating body in the Metropolitan Planning Organization as well to make sure that we'd identified projects and that we've got them down on paper, that they are close to shovel ready, and if we get near the point that we know that we have to identify funds, it's not a surprise to any city or any county involved in that organization that those funds will have to be available in their budgets. And I think that's really the great part of that organization. That was threatened this last year legislatively, in that groups like ours would not even be part of an MPO, that would only be larger cities that had 200,000 or more population. And we know that that is something that we have to keep abreast of when we contact all of our legislators, because there's an advantage for us to have an MPO. And I can tell you that when I read the things from LTAC, nothing makes me a little bit more nervous when they ask for the partners that are involved and they ask for the participation. And Jerry's had my comments on this before. I've made these statements. Sometimes they say, you know, there's just a letter of support for the project, but it's more than that. It takes all of the engineering, it takes all of the background, it takes the financial commitment that goes into that at every level to get those things approved. It isn't a matter of who can write the best letter. And sometimes the best letter doesn't prove that there was any kind of cooperation going on. And we have a very good working metropolitan planning organization. And I think that there's a great chance that when we have funds available, without bankrupting the city, without irritating the taxpayers, we can actually provide a better road system for them. And I'm confident of that. I think we've identified projects that make sense. If you want to look at that list of projects, we've got it there available all the time, and Lewiston's projects are right there and they're in the forefront, and I'm proud of that. Am I misstating anything there, Matt? Are we on the forefront with the MPO?
I think we're facing the right direction.
Great.
Counselor Stevenson.
Thank you. Just two last things. One is a question. I thought I had all these darn questions written down, but as people have started the discussion, then I think of others. Now, the figure that we have in our state-local agreement this evening is the 161,000. That actually is a percentage figure. And is there, you work with these big projects all the time, and especially in this next phase that we're entering into. With the climate the way it is now, do you see the percent, in other words, this, the 2, whatever it is, million being more? In other words, our portion could actually be more, or do you see it actually being more favorable and might even be less? What's your feel, given?
Councilwoman, it's really hard to predict, but recently projects at the Idaho Transportation Department and many of our projects at LTAC, when they open bids, they've been coming in lower than the engineer's estimate by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So if the project comes in lower, your percentage stays the same, but the
Right.
amount you pay is reduced by that proportional amount. If the bids come in high, then the city has to pay a little bit more. So it works both ways.
Right.
And hopefully, and I have good confidence in the engineer's estimate. I know Brian's firm does good work. But it's still an estimate, and we won't know until bids open. And after bids open, if there's a change order, like sometimes there are in a project for some reason or another, if there's a change order and more money's needed, then we'll come to the city, and what LTAC will try to do is find federal obligation authority to move to that project to cover the change order, so that the city would pay 7.34% of that change order, not 100% of it, and federal highways would pay the 92.66%.
But you don't have a feel now for given the projects that you've been working with and getting bids on recently, whether or not because this estimate was a while ago, right, by now? Oh, it was the estimate.
The estimate's been updated as the process went. I believe the estimate's good, but I can't
Pretty
predict
close.
what the bids will be.
Yeah, well, nobody can. We've had some
Yeah.
surprises. We've got some on the agenda tonight. But I wanted to thank you for coming, and thank you, gentlemen, for the discussion. Some of you were either on the council or you were on the committee. We're new, and so we haven't been part of this discussion, and because the project has been going on for so long, I think it's been important to be able to have the citizens understand and see these things. It's a complicated project, and I think it's been important, so thank you for allowing the discussion.
Any other further discussion from council? Councilor Daniel.
I apologize. I just wanted to thank both. I'm assuming both of you came up from southern Idaho, assuming Boise, so thank you for coming up. If you are staying the night, make sure you spend some money tomorrow.
Yeah, go down there and try to cross the street
We
now.
always do that.
Call for the question, Mr.
It's
Mayor.
really a pleasure to come up. Thank you.
Okay, the question's been called for. Do a roll call vote. Councilor Randall, it would be aye or nay.
Aye. Aye.
Councilor Kleberg, aye. Councilor Stevenson.
Abstain?
Councilor Daniel.
Aye.
Councilor Ortman.
Aye.
Councilor Pro Tem
Aye.
Cannon. I vote aye. Motion carries 6-0 with Councilor Stevenson abstaining. Okay. Next item of business is bid rejection for Lewiston Stormwater Drainage Mitigation Project. Mr. Bennett, would you like to, you got someone to talk to us about this?
I believe they're still here. Mr. Kaufman? Mr. Joe Kaufman from our engineering department will come up and brief us all on the latest bids that we received on the FEMA Phase 1 stormwater project.
Mr. Bennett, I'm going to recuse myself for this project and turn over the discussion to Pro Tem Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Kaufman.
Yes, as I said, I'm the stormwater coordinator for the city of Lewiston here, and it's my
my project that we're managing here. And in the packet, there was a memo that I think outlines all the big picture for the project. And yeah, it's another grant project, and this one the city was awarded based on how much we can avoid future damages in downtown by upgrading the storm system to meet what's in the master plan. And we went ahead and went to bid, and they came back higher than our estimate. And so in order to let the bidders know where we are, I recommended that we reject those bids and pursue some scope reductions and cost savings, and send it out again for the next fiscal year.
Council have questions for Mr. Kaufman at this time? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor
Thank
Pro
you.
Tem, I move that we reject the bid for the Lewiston Stormwater Drainage Mitigation Project.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we reject the bid for the Lewiston Stormwater Drainage Mitigation Project. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 with Mayor Poole abstaining. Mayor Poole.
Thank you, Pro Tem Cannon. Next item of business is Resolution 2012-33, approving a grant agreement for the U.S. Department of Transportation, FAA. Due to conflict of interest, Pro Tem Cannon, I'll have you.
I'll do it.
Yes.
Resolution C, active agenda item C, Resolution 2012-33. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Mayor, and members of the council. This is the next phase, if you will, of FAA projects being constructed at the Airport Authority at the Lewis Clark Airport, Lewis County Airport. And this would be to construct the south side parallel taxiway and the south side aprons. It's approximately $2.867 million. And this has already been approved by the Airport Authority Board. And we have a little bit of a tight turnaround. We need to get this back in to FAA this Thursday. So they didn't give us a lot of time on this project to get it before council. So that's what the project is for. The matching funds will be 6.25%, which will come from the passenger flight charges that are collected at the airport, and the remaining 93.75% will be paid by the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I move that we, do we need to read it, or do we need
No,
to?
just approve it.
To approve Resolution 2012-33.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve Resolution 2012-33. Is there any discussion? Counselor Stevenson.
Mr. Bennett, my only comment was, we've been through this before when we had this tight turnaround, and can we make absolutely sure that we ride Robin to get it in?
Oh, Robin's been in contact with me on this project.
I
We just
know.
got the contracts,
I know.
I think maybe 10 days ago. And so they didn't give us a lot of time to turn it around.
Well, I meant between when we signed it and it had to be over in Seattle. We've almost missed the 5 o'clock deadline a
Right.
couple of times. So can you
Well-
just make sure that it
I will.
happens?
We will make sure that he gets the signed contracts tomorrow.
You can take your plane and fly out.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
That's my only comment.
We
This
will
is
get
such an important project.
It is.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 with Mayor Poole abstaining. Mayor Poole.
Thank you, Pro Tem Cannon. Next item of business is contract extension for ECO. Approving staff send a notice to ECO of its intention to extend the contract by June 26, 2012, and begin negotiations. Mr. Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This is one of, these are actually two agreements that we have with ECO that cover their management of our biosolids from the wastewater treatment plant and our yard composting program that's operated through Sunshine Disposal. The ECO facility is located near the transfer station. and it's been the source of a lot of discussion over many, many years because of the odor that comes from the plant, because of the manner in which the composting occurs. For a number of years, the Air Quality Advisory Committee was in session here in Lewiston. It was very active and debated and discussed this, this business for a long time. The current contracts that we have with ECO are set to expire December 31 of 2013. The contract calls for the possibility of a contract extension for an additional 3-year period, which would run through the end of 2016, as long as that's accomplished by June 30th of this year. We have one other wrinkle in the contract situation because the facility is located on a site that's leased from the Port of Lewiston. And the Port of Lewiston has had its own concerns and issues with the ECO facility. And as a result, their contract for the lease with ECO only runs through June 30th of 2015, with operations to cease on June 30th of 2014. So no new materials would be allowed to be accepted after that date. And then there'd be a year shutdown process. I met with the Port of Lewiston board about a week ago, and asked them to discuss the issue of whether they would consider extending their lease so that it coincided with the city's lease for the property. They indicated they would do that. They held a meeting the following Monday, and as a result, they didn't come to any agreement on the issue, but they did call for a meeting of all the parties, including representatives from ECO, within a 30-day period to sit down and discuss the matter. So where that goes forward at this point, will depend on how those negotiations go forward. As far as the city's concerned, really the only question before us at this point is whether or not to extend the contract, even though it could be foreshortened because of the lease arrangement with the Port of Lewiston. As a result, our recommendation is that because no suitable alternative has been thoroughly vetted yet, and we don't really have an option at this point for providing that service, and the service, I think, is one that the community is taking great advantage of. They enjoy, they like the service, and we want to continue that service, that we would recommend that the council extend the contract in accordance with the provisions of the current agreement, and then we will move forward, subsequently with discussions with the port and with ECO on the long-term future of their facility. And, that could mean that they continue at that site. It could mean that another operator comes onto that site. It could be, it might move to a different location with another operator. And those are the kinds of things that we'll be exploring. So that's what our recommendation is.
Council, I'll entertain a motion to approve staff to send a notice to EKO of its intention to extend the contract and to negotiate dates and times.
Second.
Moved and seconded
Everybody wants to get it.
for a contract extension, approving staff to negotiate contract extensions. Any discussion? Mr. Bennett, I agree that ECO provides a needed service for the city. It's, I think there has been discussion in the past about maybe that's not the best location, but definitely the service that's provided is something that's needed by the community. So anyway, it'll be interesting. I know council probably also very interested in what develops in negotiations with ECO. I see we got representatives here. So welcome. And between you and the port and ECO to see what we can do to do this. So anyway, any other discussion by council? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Next item of business is vouchers payable. Approving the Han Rental, Han Supply vouchers payable dated June 7th, 2012, in the amount of $1,219.14. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve vouchers payable to Han Rental and Han Supply in the amount of $1,219.14.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve vouchers payable to Han Rental, Han Supply for $1,219.14. Any discussion by council? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0 with Councilor Kleberg abstaining. Due to conflict of interest, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll recuse myself from item F.
Active agenda item F, vouchers payable, approving the Resale and Associates vouchers payable dated June 7th, 2012, the amount of $743.04. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the vouchers payable to Resale and Associates in the amount of $743.04. Any discussion?
I'm just glad we're getting a bigger check than them for a change.
You just still better start billing a little bit more, shouldn't you? Any other discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Mayor Poole abstaining. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Pro Tem Cannon. Next item is reading Resolution 2012-30. Approving the dedication of right-of-way from Stephen and Kathy Forge. I entertain a motion to read Resolution 2012-30.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to read Resolution 2012-30. Is there any discussion by council? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Approving Resolution 2012-30 by title only. A resolution accepting and approving a dedication of right-of-way from Stephen E. Forge and Kathy L. Forge, individuals, to the city of Lewiston, and providing an effective date.
Resolution 2012-30 has been read. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2012-30.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 2012-30.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2012-30. Is there any discussion by council? Hearing Councilor Randall.
I'd like to request a roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call.